All right, this is 2-7 homework, day 1, using function notation again, but this time we're going to do this in the calculator. I'm going to show you how to do all these steps in the calculator. Okay, so it is important that you learn the doing it by hand, that you understand the logic, because there will be questions asked where they just ask you to plug in a certain value or whatever. Okay, so this is important, but I feel like this is just as important because you can check your work on many of these types of problems. All right, so I'm going to introduce you a little bit to your calculator. You'll be getting more and more used to this as the year goes on. So in this calculator, we have we can put in a new document, which is great, but what we're doing now we could actually do here, or we can do it in the scratch pads. I'm going to go ahead and do this in the scratch pad. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to type in, let me try to fix my zooming problem. It's getting blurry, so I just fixed the auto lock, so hopefully it won't be zooming in and out again. So I'm going to go ahead and put in both of these equations. Let me show you how the calculator works. I go to my graph, and the default in the calculator is to label each function f1 of x, f2 of x, f3 of x, etc. So real quick, I'm just going to type in these equations and show you how the default works. So here it says f of x equals 2x, and the calculator it says f of 1x, and I can say equals 2x. I can graph it. I can get the graph of that function. I can go to the table with Control T, which I don't need to do now. But let me show you this. I can hit Tab, and I can put in another equation. Now, the default, like I said, is not g of x, it's f2 of x. But I could put in x squared plus 1. X, power of 2 here, plus 1. There it is, and there it is. Okay? That is pretty cool, except it might be confusing, like going from what's on the paper to f1 of x and then this g of x and remembering it's f2 of x. So let me show you an even better way. I can hit Doc B to delete, home, and then go back to graph. You can actually change the default and you can put it in the way that you need it to be. For example, I want just f of x equals 2x. I backspace with my left arrow, I delete that little 1, and I just put 2x. Now I graph, I get the same graph, but it's labeled the exact same way as the homework problem, right? I hit Tab again, but this time I don't want f1 of x. I don't even want f. I want g of x. So I delete both of those. I press G. Now I have g of x equals. I put x squared plus 1 like I did, but this time it's labeled exactly like my homework paper, right? So that's okay and all, but we actually need to put in something like that. How do we do that? Here's where it gets even better. So I'm going to hit the home button again right here. And this time I'm going to go to the calculate screen. Now first of all, I just want to point out that we didn't lose our graphs. They're sitting right there. All the information is right there. And when I go to my calculate screen, I can type this in. And when I do, it references the graphs in the graph scratch pad. I'm going to type in, using my letters down below, F, parenthesis 3, plus sign on the outside there, and then G, parenthesis 4. Right arrow to get out of it, push enter. That's the exact same answer that we did doing it by hand on the other video. All right? And here's what's even greater. Those graphs are already entered in the graph screen. I can just keep on going. Now I can type in the next one. And I'm going to type it in the way I see it. G, and then parenthesis, and then F, parenthesis 3. Get out of those parentheses, it matches what I have, I press enter. I get 37, which is the exact same answer I got on number 3 on the last video. You see how great this can be for doing these types of problems. Let's take a look at number 5. Okay, I'm going to put in f parenthesis 2, that is function of 2, okay, plus 3. And then I'm going to put times, and then g parenthesis 4. Okay, I want to double check. It's easy to mistype something, so always double check and make sure it matches. You'd hate to get it wrong just because you typed it wrong. 55 is the exact same number I got on number 5 earlier. All right, so you can go through all those problems. I do want you to get familiar with the steps and understand the process, because I promise you, you will be asked questions that you can't just put in the calculator. You'll be asked questions about certain steps. But this is a great tool. I really hope all of you guys take the time to practice it. It will help you. And we're going to move on to another tool you can do on the back of this paper as well. You'll learn this soon enough, but I want you to learn it as fast as you can. So I'm going to show you right here. Just like we typed in equations, I can type in this equation on the back when I have a function equation and I have a list of domain problems. Watch this. I go ahead, I'm going to clear out everything this time. So I'm going to hit Doc B. That clears out everything on the calculator screen and the graph screen. Now when I go to my graph screen, it's totally blank again. And I'm going to type in this. Okay, f of x is equal to negative 3x plus 2. So this time I don't really care about getting rid of the 1. I'm not putting in more than 1 right now. So I'm just going to type in negative 3x plus 2. I can graph it. And here is where it gets really friendly to do these types of problems. Remember, they gave us the domain, so these are x values, and we need to find the y values that go with them. Okay? We're going to do that in one step. When you hit Control and the letter T, that pulls up the table for that function. Now this only works when it's a function. If it's a relation, and we know the difference between the two, if it's a relation, you can't get the table. Okay? But here's our table for the function. So here's what I do. My first x value is negative 2. I can arrow up. There's negative 2, and there's the y value that goes with it. It's 8. Now, yeah, we know, we talked about on the other video, it's best to put these in order. But just for going fast and just to show you this, I'm just going to put them in the exact same order of what goes with what. Okay? So negative 1, there's my 5 that goes with negative 1. When x is 0, there's negative 2. Positive 2. When x is 1, there is a negative 1 for y. When x is 2, there's a negative 4 for y. My writing's kind of bad because I'm trying to write around this calculator. Sorry about that. So that's all you have to do. And what if they give you the range values and you have to find the domain? Many times you can just do the same thing and look for the range values here, and you'll write down the matching domain values. Now, this doesn't work as easily when you are dealing with fraction numbers, okay? I'm going to show you that right now. If you'll bear with me and keep watching this video, remember this nasty one we did on the last video? We can actually do the same thing and get those answers, but it takes a little more knowledge of the calculator and of the math. So let me show you. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this, Doc B, and now I'm going to quickly go back to my graph. I'm going to put in x squared plus 2. Okay? But here's where it gets a little troublesome at first. When I go to my table, These are the x values again. This is my domain, x values. But here's the problem. These aren't whole numbers. My x values are set to be whole numbers right now, right? And here I have 0. I can find the first part of my answer. 0 goes to a y output of 2. I could even find this last one. The 1 over here goes to an output of 3. But these guys are not on the table. 1/4, 1/2, and 3/4. But here's the good news. They can be on the table. Okay, if you can figure out what increments these are going by, you can change your table settings. Go to Menu. It's a very small menu in this screen, and you have to have clicked on the table to get this menu. I want to go to Table. I want to edit my table settings. So go to 5. Okay. Now we have Table Start. That just shows what value it starts on. But below that we have Table Step. This tells you what to go up by each time. Right now it's set to 1. That's why the x values are all going by 1s. If you recognize on a problem that you're doing what you're going by, like by the way, like this is going by, basically this is 0.25, and this is 0.5, and this is 0.75, like 25 cents, 50 cents, 75 cents. This is going in increments of 0.25, 25 hundredths. If I change that right here, let me get rid of that. If I change that to 0.25 right there, push OK. Now look at my graph, my table I mean. Now you have to, it helps if you're friendly going from, decimals to fractions and whatnot, or fractions of decimals. Okay, 0 to 2, there it is. 0.25 is this one, and that's the decimal equivalent of the fraction answer. That is it. And then 1/2, that's 2.25. That's the decimal equivalent of the fraction answer we got in the last video. 3/4, there's the decimal equivalent, and so on. Now, just for example, what if your answer choices aren't these decimal equivalents? So let me just show you, like for this one, 2.0625. If I need to know what fraction that is, I go to my calculate screen and I put in 2.0625, and I want to remind you what we did the second day of school. You go to Menu, you go to Number, choice 2, you can approximate the fraction. Hit Enter. That's 33/16, and that's what we did in the last video. So here's some tools that I really encourage you to learn. Yes, it takes a little time, but it will surely make some of these complicated problems a lot easier to handle. Okay? I'll see you in class.